Go ahead. Yes.
I'm Lauren. I guess my question is if the limitations of the world that we live in today in Vermont exist, what are things we can do to change those limitations aside from writing letters and stuff like that? And I guess some of the more practical solutions I'm thinking of that are still probably a stretch is to make it a full year long legislature with staff and more people will be doing this work because we're all crazy passionate about this, but there's no climate change jobs really. Like there's nobody who can there's nowhere to put this energy in a way that could actually sustain our livelihoods and feed us as well. So it's asking people who are working full-time jobs plus to be doing this work on top of whatever they need to do. And I know you guys are exhausted, but we're exhausted too, and so there needs to be more opportunities to channel this energy in a successful way, in my opinion.
Structural change to the legislature would make for a much more democratic society in Vermont. I mean, we have a part-time citizen legislature. A lot of my colleagues are able to be there because they're retired or they have independent means. And then some of us are there or have been there in the past to like working, I work a second job and then don't get paid except for when we're in the legislature in session. And it takes an enormous amount of privilege to serve in our legislature in Vermont. And it's just not, and that means that it's just not representative of the people of the state.
And the one thing I'd like to add is that pin us down. Don't let us just talk about the good things and the good climate stuff. Pin us down and find out what we've done, what we intend to do, what bills we're supporting, how we bring that about in the legislature. It's really important, but I understand that there's only so many hours in the day and you get exhausted, and we're all asking a lot of each other, and but I think if we continue to all do our best, we will make progress.
What stands in the way with full-time legislature? Sorry to shout it out, but that felt so. What stands in the way of doing a full-time legislature?
We couldn't even get money for a few extra rules.
Millions of dollars.
I would like to just express an opposing view to that as a legislator who has 4 jobs, and I don't regret doing that. I think that if we created a full-time legislature, we would create a class of people who would become career politicians, and I'm just going to speak my heart here. I'm going to speak to you first about what you asked about what's happening. I don't think the government is going to solve this problem. I don't think that the current economic system that created the problem is going to come up with a solution to this problem. When people talk about something radical, I think we have to think outside of what we've done before. And the idea of let's just create more jobs and more government people to solve this, is that I'm not convinced. I think what would happen is you would have a year of people debating, and you'd have people like us fighting harder over the course of a year and not achieving things. I don't think the government's going to solve this. What will solve it, I think, is going to be a mass movement of people who figure out how to survive. I'm going to be real with you as a youth who's scared. I do not believe that we're going to change things before we see an even greater cost beyond anything we've imagined. We hear the science in the legislature, the rate at which species are dying and the rate at which the ecology is collapsing is out of control. And so without unless we have AI that suddenly comes into existence and solves this within seconds and then forces us all in some weird way to comply, I don't see how humanity is going to change to its existing systems. And so I really think what we need to do is we can keep trying to do these little, so I'm a crisis worker as one of my 4 jobs, and when you do crisis work, you do triage. So you go into a situation, and if someone's dying or suicidal, like humanity seems to be, the first thing you do is you're how do we stabilize this situation? How do we, put walls around this person and keep them safe until we can figure out what's next? And we're not even doing that. We don't, you know, we're trying, like, and I don't want to like take away from what we're trying to do. These like 4 things you're hearing are realistic steps that we think we can convince our colleagues to get behind. But those things, it's like barely putting someone in an ambulance to take them to the hospital. You know, it's like we're fighting to get the person in the ambulance. And we're not even talking about what's after, like what's coming after we stabilize the situation. And so I guess what I'm getting at with this metaphor is we have to right now we're at a situation where we have to do everything at once. And in addition to what we're proposing as a caucus, I think some of us are looking at other ideas, and something I think we really need is a vision. Like, what is the vision of what we want, and what are we going to do in like a year or two to lay the foundation for the vision? And I have some ideas about that I don't need to get into here. If people want to talk more about it, you heard the zero waste economy mentioned. I've kind of moved on. You all don't know that yet. To something called the regenerative economy, and it's based in the Climate Justice Alliance's Just Transition principles. And the idea is, how do we engage the people, not the government? Like, how does back to the question about the full-time legislature, because this is to tie it up. Instead of putting more faith in government, what the government needs to do is put more power back to people and like spread that work out to the people. And we have to stop thinking about it as money, like as like money and I'm making money. Like, it's beyond that. Like, we're gonna die, you know, poor, you know, and so when everything collapses that we're living on. So on that note, a regenerative economy would be like a radical change from what we have, an extractive economy. And as part of building a regenerative, it's hard to say, I'm not used to it yet, economy, we need to figure out a process to engage the entire population in building like a new ship, because the ship that we're on is sinking, and we can keep patching holes, but it's done. So I'm sorry, I'll stop there, but that's why I don't think we should need a full-time legislature. I think we need a new, okay.